You're watching Total Maine.
Well, hey there and welcome back to Total Maine. We appreciate you tuning in. We are in the arena now with our panel of podcast experts. Going to start now with a quick preview of your deep dive on the podcast this week. It was early last week, the deadline to submit signatures to get on the primary ballot for some major races that we're following closely as part of our Commitment 2026 coverage. Governor, U.S. Senate, Maine's 2 House seats. Pat, let's start with you here. There's so much to break down. You're getting into all of it in the podcast, but help us understand why this week was particularly important looking ahead to many of these races.
Well, this is where the rubber meets the road. Anybody can say they are running for office, but the filing of signatures is the first sign for many that, okay, you're actually putting the work in. Now, we've already seen campaign finance reports. That also tells you a lot long before anybody gets the name on the ballot. But the point is that now it's for real, and Phil, I think this is where the hard work really begins.
Yeah, particularly if you're looking at the gubernatorial race on the Republican side, there's 8 candidates who made the ballot. They're going to have to demonstrate they've got the organization and the money to break out of that 8-way contest to be the nominee.
And Ethan, it's also strategy time too, as we've talked about on the podcast, where with ranked choice voting, are there candidates going to start forming coalitions?
Yeah, I hope so, and I expect so. I mean, this is kind of exciting, and it's good to see there's so many candidates running, and we have such spirited primaries, especially on the Democratic side. I think the primary in particular for the U.S. Senate is going to be really good. We'll give each candidate an opportunity to really get tested and prepare themselves. We haven't had that in the race against Susan Collins in the past. It's sort of just been somebody who's been anointed. I think this is going to be a good sign for Democrats.
Yeah, more to come on that over the next 2 months here on this program and your podcast as well. I want to talk about the Democratic primary race for U.S. Senate really heating up now. The Janet Mills campaign releasing an ad this week criticizing Graham Platner for comments made online downplaying sexual assault. Platner has apologized again for those remarks, says that it does not reflect who he is today. He held a news conference back on Tuesday, joined by supporters. Ethan, let's start with you here. For a lot of people, this might be the first time that they're made aware of these comments. Was Platner effective in his apology and his response to this week?
I don't think he was as effective as he ultimately needs to be. I think he really has to take the time to sort of look at this the way perhaps for those of my generation would look at Bill Clinton back in the 90s when he sat down with a reporter at 60 Minutes and talked about some of his history and some of the allegations around infidelity in his life. Platner needs to do that kind of interview with some reporter, just sit down and really dive into these issues to explain how he's changed. What would he do differently? What would he say to his daughter if he had one about those comments, or if she were dating somebody who had said things like that? Take the time to kind of address this issue head on. Otherwise, it's just going to be a constant needle in his side that's going to make it hard to win.
Phil, Graham Platner certainly developing a lot of momentum here as a political newcomer and as an outsider here. Polls have shown him with a lead, although to varying degrees at this point. Does Mills' attack here on Platner, does it send a message that she is not to be underestimated as a fighter in this race?
Yeah, it definitely does. But I think more importantly, it's an indication that Governor Mills is behind in this primary race for the nomination on the Democratic Party side for the U.S. Senate. And she's taken the steps to make this contrast, and we'll see how effective it is at getting people to reconsider this momentum that is clearly in Platner's favor.
It may signal a new phase in this race. And Pat, what are your expectations for this primary moving forward? What should we expect, especially as we move into debate season?
Well, there are certainly 2 heavyweights here, and that's what we've seen so far. Graham Platner has a lot of enthusiasm behind him. Janet Mills, everybody knows her. They know she's a proven winner in this state. She's also tough as can be, as some people say, tough as an old barn nail. You watch her in a debate against someone like Graham Platner, that's going to be really interesting to see. However, there is a third candidate as well, David Costello, who ran against Senator Angus King, not especially effectively last time as the Democratic nominee. However, he presented himself well. This, of course, also a ranked choice voting election. So having the third candidate can change the mathematics. We don't know how exactly yet, but it's really going to be something to watch.
It certainly wouldn't be the first time that we've seen that here in Maine either. Revisiting a polarizing issue now, which we've talked about multiple times over the last year, whether transgender athletes should be allowed to participate in women and girls sports in Maine. The Secretary of State says the petition has enough valid signatures to move forward here, meaning that if the legislature does not pass a bill, that would go on the ballot in November. 2026, of course, shaping up to be a very competitive midterm election season, as you've already talked about. You get into detail in the podcast, but what would this race look like?
Well, I think the key is it's a deeply emotional issue for a lot of people. They either, let's face it, in a sense, it is a solution in search of a problem. There are only a couple of transgender athletes in Maine that we know of, so it's a very small subset that we're addressing here, and yet there are plenty of parents who worry about their kids at school and the access that they have to fair and equitable accommodations, if you will. So this is one of those things that, assuming there aren't a lot of other things buried in the bill that we don't know about yet, not having read the whole thing, I think it's just people vote on their emotions for this one.
Governor Mills had said that this was worthy of debate in the state legislature. Ethan, let's go to you here. Is there any chance the state legislature actually takes this up?
No, there's no chance that the legislature will take this up unless they were going to try to pass it and then kill it. I'd support them doing that. But I actually think that while this is an emotional issue for folks, it's so far down the list of what people actually care about. You know, we had a debate a while ago about should Republicans actually be spending their money on this? A lot of Republicans have said, stop it with this stuff. We need to focus on affordability. They're right in that instance. I actually think this thing's going to go down. I think in the end, it's not important enough. People don't want to just go after a couple of kids. It just doesn't feel like the main way.
Phil, do you think this is something, like Ethan says, that the Mainers don't really care about?
No, I see it very, very differently, and I think Pat has analyzed this correctly, assuming there's no other trinkets in the bill, so to speak, that would cause people to say, oh, that's not about transgender sports. I think this bill transcends over party affiliation, geography, wealth, et cetera. I think this truly is going to prove to the elected officials that we, the people, have a very strong feeling on this issue, and I think it's going to pass significantly.
All right, we'll keep close tabs on it. Go ahead, Ethan.
Yep. Yeah, one real quick thing is, let's remember, Secretary of State still has to write the question. That's a very important part of this. How is that question phrased will have a big influence on how it turns out.
All right. Thank you so much to the three of you for being here on this Sunday. Remember, new episodes of In the Arena drop every Thursday. You can watch it at our website, WMTW.com. You can watch it on YouTube, especially when they live stream on Wednesdays, or take it along with you. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.